This here is called a manta ray. And this was the first production slot car, ready to run, made. And so it's a big piece of history. And when I was a kid, I always wanted a manta ray. I didn't get one. So now I have an army. Because there was a part of me that was never satisfied. Manta rays were usually in orange. However, if you're very lucky, you can find very rare ones, the most rare being blue. And so, of course, that blue one is one of my gems of my collection. Everything gets its own spot. The manta ray was prepared by Classic Industries. Classic was my favorite company. So this is a hand-painted body here that I did myself. That's why it's silver green. After, gotta be careful with glass doors. Later on, Classic produced what was called the Viper, and it became their signature car. They're also known as the banana car, because they're yellow and appear to be a banana. Vipers, once again, were mostly yellow. You can find them in red, very rare. It's green and blue. Of course, I have green and blue. Makes me a happy boy. These are all set up so they actually do work. When I have a track, I actually can drive them. Going with these Vipers will be these other cars. They are still Viper chassis. Classic Industries packaged with the Viper kit a cheetah body, which was a very popular slot car back then. And a dear departed friend of mine by the name of Bob Tuckey put this together, and this is kept with my collection. And so is another Bob Tuckey car, this Cobra, both using Viper chassis. Finally, once again a Viper chassis. When I got back into slot cars in the early 90s, I didn't have any. Didn't have any of this. I had very few. But I managed to get hold of a Viper chassis. And I had this body sitting around since my kidhood. Never got painted. So I put it together, custom made all the metal things by bending wire. I didn't even have a soldering iron, so I had to solder it on top of an electric stove. This is an AC Cobra. It has my racing name, which is Viper. No pun intended. And it gets a front row seat. Classic Industries are these three here. These are the most rare kits. They were produced later, shortly before the slot car thing was over. This one's called the Gamma Ray. It's a reproduction box that I got from Philippe de L'Espinay, a friend of mine from out California. He was actually an engineer for Cox and is one of the foremost collectors. The Gamma Ray sported an aluminum chassis, but it was a pan chassis, and it even came with a working disc brake. One of these is a reproduction car, the other is original. So you can guess which one I drive around fast. I haven't got my magnets yet. That's what will hold these back little things up in the air. This next one is a Serpent. It's one of the most rare cars that of Classic Industries. At this point, they hand built the chassis, soldering brass wire. It's almost impossible to find these in good condition. And last of the top shelf items, because I have my Batmobiles, they're still in the box, is the Stinger. They're a little easier to find. Once again, a pan chassis, but they sported a working disc brake, or air brake. And so when you slow down, it pops up, theoretically slowing the car down. It's probably more torque than anything else. And thus is my high-end collection of Classic. Take 3 on Classic. These are 3 different collections. One is the Astro V. Classic was always known for what was called a thingy car. That's why these don't look like real cars to a point. And this is actually a takeoff of a Viper chassis, but it's lower to the ground. And the idea was it was supposed to be Bonneville's Salt Flats racer. So that's why all the wheels are covered up. It came in mostly silver. Almost all of them are that. Very rare, blue, red, and green. I have a green one someplace. Classic produced their own controller. This is mint. It's never been used. Normally controllers had all the stuff in the hand and they got very warm. So Classic put all the electronic gobbledygook down here, and then he just held this little thing. It was not popular. And finally is the Classic Tornado. They are about the only car that he sold that looked like a real car, which is an Oldsmobile Tornado. Front wheel drive car in the real life. It uses a Viper chassis in the Classic life. I have 3 of them, but what's really special is this display box. It's supposed to pop up. I'm almost scared to bend it, but it would bend up and look real nice in a display case. I just try to keep it from falling apart. Also, I happen to have later, they started putting these out in these plastic boxes. Saved space in the dealer shelves. Was probably cheaper than all this. Those are ready to run. When it comes something like that, as you can see, it doesn't even close all the way. This is a modified. Must have been a lower profile car. So there you go, the Astro V and a Tornado and a rather ungainly controller. Okay, these are scale electric for the most part cars. These are produced in the 1990s till now. These are, as they're a little bit older, you can see the details a lot less compared to what started coming out later. So they really upped their act as more competition came out. So a Ferrari before looked like this and later looked like that. Admittedly, it's a different year, but still, this was a lot more than just a blob back then. This was a team. I feel kind of good. This is the real team, 27 to 28. It was a Lazy and Gerhard Berger. Gerhard retired as a Ferrari driver, winning his last race. And no pun as far as being bottom shelf, but that's where these are going to be going. I think we'll put all the Ferraris together. The sticks are so the tires don't get flat spots, and also otherwise look like it's pulling a wheelie. And there's magnets under them, so this keeps the magnet off the metal. This was actually a Ferrari too, if I remember correctly. What happened for a short time, they passed some rules that Enzo didn't like, and out of spite, he changed the cars. He ran from Ferrari red to either yellow or blue, just so the advertisers wouldn't be as happy. Kind of like his last word. Oopsie.
Who is Bob Tucky?
Bob Tucky was someone who passed away many years ago. He had a small hobby shop in Lemoyne, and he was an excellent modeler. I have quite a few of his cars after he passed away, and some before because he traded them to me. But he tried his very best to keep his store going, even though all these huge chain stores were out there, selling stuff for less than he could. I'd stop by at least once a week to buy something, and we'd talk slot cars and hobby stuff. Came over to my house a few times, and I went to his. And eventually he had to close his store, and he went to hack and started learning a trade, and then he had a heart attack and died. So we always wonder how much closing the store really broke him. But he was rather a high-strung person too.
So you have a lot of his cars.
I got a lot of his cars.